We are recording the interview of Paul Griffith. This interview is being conducted by Adrian Hill from the Wright State University Veteran Voices Project. The interview is being recorded at VFW Post 3288 in Brookville, Ohio. It is 9 a.m. on October 1st, 2014. All right, Paul, where and when were you born?
I was born in Dayton, Ohio, June the 8th, 1943.
Okay. Who were your parents and what were their occupations?
My father, Paul Griffith, worked at Delco Products in Dayton, Ohio. My mother was a housewife.
Okay. Did you have any siblings?
Yes, I had actually three older sisters. One had passed when I was 1 year old, and two older sisters and a brother 2 years younger.
Okay. Did any of them join the military?
My brother joined 2 years younger. He joined the Air Force about a year before I was drafted.
Okay. And what were you doing before you entered?
I was a mechanic at White Allen Chevrolet in Dayton, Ohio. No, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Paddock Pontiac in Dayton, Ohio, a car dealer. I had worked at White Allen, then I quit there and went to work for Paddock.
Okay. And how long were you doing that for before you enlisted?
Let's see, probably 4 years.
Okay. And what branch of the military did you serve?
I was drafted into the Army.
You were drafted? Okay. Did you have any choice over that at all? Like which branch of the military when you get drafted is
Not at that time, no. That was kind of pre-Vietnam. They weren't drafting Marines at that time.
Okay.
I probably wouldn't have joined the Marines anyway, but no, I didn't have any choice. I went into the Army in May of '65.
Okay. What was that like? I mean, did you get a letter saying in the mail?
I got a letter the year before to go down for a physical, and when I went down to Cincinnati for that, came back with high blood pressure, so they give me a deferment for a year, and I went back down in early part of '65 and passed with flying colors. So about a month later, I got congratulations, President welcomes you to the United States Army.
Yeah. How did you feel about it at the time? I
was ambivalent, really. The job I had was a good job. I enjoyed it. I had a girlfriend. We were planning on a future, but really, I was kind of ambivalent. I said, well, I'll go do 2 years and serve my country.
Yeah. So why didn't you choose to enlist prior to that then?
Why didn't I?
Yeah, because I mean, you sounded like you're pretty, for it. Was there a reason you had to enlist prior to that?
No, not really. Like I said, I had a good job. I did a lot of drag racing and things like that, and I kept pretty busy. You're just enjoying life.
Yeah.
And, at that time, that was the mid '60s, and the Beatles were popular at the time, and we were having fun.
Yeah. All right. So do you recall your first days, like arriving at basic training?
Yeah, somewhat. Got to the reception center, and like I said, it was actually late May. It was almost Memorial Day, and lucky for me, we fell out one morning right after we got there, and they counted out 30 of us and said, "You guys are going to stay for the weekend to do KP in the mess hall here in the reception center." So we spent the whole weekend doing that, and then we went to our training company the following Monday or Tuesday after Memorial Day.
Okay. What was that like getting there?
It was very chaotic. You didn't know what you were going to do from one minute to the next. You just kind of stood by your bunk and waited on them to tell you what to do and when to do it.
Yeah. But did they seem fairly organized though? I mean, as far as
Oh,
the regimen and
yeah,
everything?
pretty much. I think they had done this several thousand times before, so they pretty much knew what they were doing. I had I won't call him a young guy. He was a Korean vet. He was our platoon, our DI, and young black man, and he was Sergeant E5, and I would find out later that after we graduated that he was quite a hero in Korea.
Wow. Okay. So, were there any other instructors that you recall besides that one?
Not during basic training. He was kind of our mother, father, and the whole ball of wax while we were there. And he was a good leader.
Okay. So, do you think that you adapted to the military lifestyle, like the regiment, the barracks, the food, and everything?
I adapted real well. A lot of the guys didn't. I was lucky. I had a good friend that came from Dayton with me. I didn't know him before we got there, but I met him on the way down on the bus. His name was Robert Kramer, and we were about the same age. Me and Bob kind of bonded, and we went through basic training together.
So you think that helped you having a good
Helped
friend there?
a great deal
Yeah.
when the time came.
All right. Well, we're back from a short break for the recording of the interview with Paul Griffith. So after basic training, where did you go?
Okay, when during basic training, I was talking about my friend Bob Kramer, and we both had qualified for OCS to go to OCS, and we kind of talked each other into it. So we both applied for OCS and were accepted, and both of us decided to go artillery at Fort Sill. And that's where we were sent for our AIT. And when we got to Fort Sill, since we were both OCS candidates, we were sent to a leadership school and become acting NCOs within the AIT units. And we both went to OCS together.
Okay. So did you guys had bachelor's degrees in? Was that a requirement then?
I had a high school diploma.
So they didn't require you to have a college degree at that time?
No.
Okay. So after you went to OCS, then where did you?
Once I graduated from OCS in June of '66, I had applied for flight school, and I had to await the determination on that, so they sent me to a Pershing unit, Pershing missile unit there at Fort Sill. And I was turned down for flight school due to my eyesight, and remained there in the Pershing unit and went to Pershing officer school. After that, I served as a battery exec officer in a unit there at 2nd of the 44th there at Fort Sill. And in February of '67, test fired a Pershing missile at Blanding, Utah, which was quite it was kind of exciting to press the buttons on a Pershing and watch it go south.
Right.
But and then following that, right after that, I was promoted to first lieutenant, and remained there as assistant to the S3 for a while, and then got orders for Korea.
Okay.
And since I really didn't care to go to Korea, I called the career center in the Pentagon and talked to a fellow there, and he got me orders for Vietnam.
Okay.
And I got my orders for Vietnam. February of, I went there February of 68.
So did you get attached to another unit then that wasn't the one you were in for that? Because you said you requested to go. Did you get like attached to a separate unit that wasn't the one that you were with stateside?
No, I didn't actually know what my unit was till I got to Vietnam.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Okay.
Flew out of Oakland. I can't remember the exact date. Sometime mid-February of 68. Went to Oakland, California. Flew out of there on a private jet, and we went to Hawaii and Okinawa, and the next stop was Vietnam, Bien Hoa, Vietnam.
Okay. So, let's see. What was your job when you were in Vietnam then?
Well, I had several jobs. I started out as a battalion motor officer, as a first lieutenant, and one of my main jobs when I got there was to bring in the 197th National Guard out of New Hampshire National Guard. They had a 155 unit, and it was my job to get their equipment together from Saigon docks off of a ship and bring it up to our base camp in Phu Loy, and then go get when they arrived at Bien Hoa, had to convoy them to Phu Loy.
Okay.
And it was quite a process, and then give them some in-country training. And they had some training here in the States, but they needed to be acclimated to the country when they got there.
Okay.
And that was one of my jobs. Like I said, as a battalion motor officer, we did a lot of ammo convoying. We convoyed a lot of ammunition from Long Pen to the various firing batteries scattered throughout north of Saigon up to the Cambodian border.
Okay. So was that, did you do anything else while you were over there as far as your job, or was that?
No, I was made a battery commander sometime in I'm going to say around June. Okay. Of that year, yeah.
And how long were you over there?
1 year.
1 year. Okay. All right. So did you ever experience? Do you guys ever get ambushed? I mean, did you ever have any combat experience there?
Oh yeah, yeah. We got our convoys got ambushed occasionally. At the time, now they call them EIDs. We didn't call them that then. We would hit an occasional road bomb, either activated by, either detonated by one of our trucks or detonated by somebody along the road. And I did lose a couple men on that.
Was that the most common, form of that they used?
Yeah, that was pretty common. That
Okay.
and just opening up on you.
So how did you guys handle those? I mean, did you guys have guys in turrets? Did you have?
Sometimes we would have convoy. We would have convoy escort with a couple of tanks or a couple of quad 40s or quad 50s. We had our own M60s. I had an M60 mounted in my Jeep. Other than that, why? I usually carried a M79 when I rode.
Okay. So you said that it was pretty common to get hit by like mines or road bombs. Did you guys come up with a way to handle that, or was it?
Yeah, we did. Drive real fast, and and if you seen anything suspicious, go around it.
Yeah. Okay, so that was that. I mean,
that was about it.
Because now I know it's a lot more extensive than that.
It's a lot more involved now. Yeah, we it was mostly keep your eyes open, keep your radio handy, and drive like hell.
All right. So, when you're in those situations, you know, when something like that happens, I mean, what is that? How did you feel when you're, you know, dealing with that, when you're witnessing all that happening? I mean,
it's quite a rush. I don't know how to explain it. Anybody that's ever been shot at would understand. Mm-hmm. Your adrenaline just goes haywire and goes crazy, and you follow your training. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do what you can to for the situation.
Yeah. What about witnessing like the destruction? Like, because obviously they blew up some trucks. There was people hurt. I mean, how did you guys handle that? You know.
Well, we tried to anybody that was injured, we took care of them. Called in medevac and got them the heck out of there. Other than that, if there was somebody shooting at us, we shot back.
Yeah. Does that still stick with you today, you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
In what ways?
You think about it quite a bit. You think about if you could have done anything different. Mm-hmm. You think about the guys that didn't come back mm-hmm. from those events.
Okay. So what kind of make it a little lighter here. What kind of friendships and camaraderie did you make when you were serving in Vietnam?
I didn't make a lot of real good camaraderie with. I was the battery commander. I didn't try to. I got close to my top NCOs, the first sergeant. I had two wonderful first sergeants serve under me while I was in Vietnam. They were just the best. I had one kid from Dayton, Ohio, that introduced himself when I first took the battery. Took over on the battery. He introduced himself, Stephen Hessler, and he would later be killed. And he was the only guy in my unit from Dayton, Ohio, or even around, and he happened to die later.
Was that by what you were talking about, the bombs?
No, it was a different, whole different related incident.
Oh, okay.
I won't go into that.
Okay. So, you know, when you're not on mission and things like that, since you were there, what year did you say you were there?
68.
68. So they had kind of been established for a while. Did they have anything set up where you could contact family and friends back home?
You know, they did have down at, and I don't know exactly where it was at. It was somewhere in Saigon. And I was down there one afternoon, and the guy I was with said there's a Mars station nearby. And I don't know whether it was Tan Son Nhut or one of the headquarters places down there that we visited for various things on business. But I did drop in and waited in line a little bit and got to call back to my mother over a shortwave radio is what it was. It's called Mars military affiliated radio or something of that nature. Mm-hmm. But you would have to say, just like you were speaking on a radio, you would have to say over and then wait for them. And mm-hmm. It was kind of confusing for the people back home. I called home, and it happened to be the middle of the night. Scared the hell out of my mother, and when she answered the phone, and then she was really confused by the way I had to speak, then she had to speak, and it was kind of confusing, but mm-hmm. it was a good thing, really. Yeah. I did get to talk to her.
Did they have a radio before you left? I mean, did you guys know about it? Because you said she had one.
She did. She talked over the phone.
Oh, okay.
But she talked through a ham radio operator, and that's
okay.
what made it so confusing.
Gotcha. Okay, so there was a way that the radio connected to somebody.
It was skip traced across however many miles, 12,000 miles.
Wow, I've never heard that. That's interesting.
Yeah, it was called Mars. I've seen a few things on the internet about it. You know, people talk about it. Even the Vietnam Vets Facebook page that I belong to, one of the guys there operated one of them.
Oh, okay.
And he was out of Tan Son Nhut, I think, down in Saigon. But I don't remember if we were at Tan Son Nhut or not when I did that. You know, we got back then we had various places to go in Saigon, and I don't remember. This guy just told me, he said, yeah, there's a Mars thing over here. He said, let's stop in and see if we can call.
Yeah.
It was kind of on the spur of the moment. And I was able to do that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Did you ever call anybody else, or was it just your mom?
No, that was the only one time I called home from Vietnam, and all the other times I did make some tapes, some reel-to-reel tapes, and send them home.
Was that for your mom as well, or?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you still have a girlfriend when you were deployed? I don't know.
I did, but we kind of parted ways shortly, probably about 3 months after I went in.
Oh, okay.
And I got my dear John, and
yeah.
and we parted ways.
Okay. So did you ever write letters and things like that as well?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I wrote a lot of letters home to my family. Wrote to my mother and both my sisters, my brother. My brother had been to Vietnam just before I had. Actually, he was in the Air Force, and he had spent 6 or 7 months there, and he was in a what they call it, a security force for the Air Force, MP unit that did security.
Okay.
And then he went back to Spokane and did as an instructor.
Okay. So, is there anything else you wanted to talk about? Well, going to recreation. Was there anything you did for recreation while you were there?
Well, I'm trying to think. Not much. No, I tell you what we did do it was like on Saturday afternoon. I remember well. I had one of these real little portable TVs, and we were close enough to Saigon that we could pick up a TV station down there. The American, I don't know what they call, military.
The Armed Forces
Armed Forces Network. And we would set that up outside, hook it to a generator if the battery was dead, and power that up. But on Saturday afternoon around 5 or 6 o'clock, Laugh-In came on. I don't know whether you remember Laugh-In. It was a comedy show, and everybody'd stand around. We'd watch Laugh-In.
Yeah.
That was kind of a treat.
Yeah. So you had a bunch of guys kind of just
all
standing
around the TV that you could barely see.
Yeah. So anything else that you could think of that you guys did when you were on mission and things like that?
Every once in a while back in base camp, we would somehow our mess sergeant would magically come across a case of steaks that he had traded with the Navy down in Saigon, and we'd have a cookout.
Oh, okay.
Have some beer.
Mm-hmm.
And,
I meant to ask you about that. Did you guys have like rations for beer when you were over there? Because I've heard.
In the afternoon, we allowed two guys to have two beers if we had it. Mm-hmm. You know, during Chad, you couldn't get beer, but after that, it started coming back, and if the Bondi Bomb 33 was pretty bad, that was a local beer. But if we could get American beer, we allowed them 2 beers in the afternoon, and it was usually warm, but
yeah.
better than nothing.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else about Vietnam you wanted to talk about before we move on?
There's plenty when you're thinking about it, but oh golly, no, I'd like to go back someday and just see it again.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful country. Saw it from the air quite a bit, and other than the bomb craters, it was beautiful, and I would like to see it one more time. But
Yeah.
a lot of guys, Vietnam vets don't want to go back, but
Yeah.
I'm one that would,
Mhm.
you know.
Alright.
And met a lot of the people. A lot of the people were nice. A lot of them weren't.
Yeah.
But, that's part of war, I guess.
All right. So we'll kind of go into coming home from your deployment to Vietnam. Were you there exactly 1 year?
Almost to the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you knew the date coming up from the day you got there. You knew.
I knew pretty close, you know, what that date would be.
Okay. How did you leave Vietnam?
I left with a lot of what do you say? Both. I was happy about it, but I was really saddened to have to leave my guys there.
Mm-hmm.
And my colonel, battalion commander, wanted me to stay on for another 6 months, but he wanted me to stay on until he got ready to leave. Mm. But I turned him down. I said, "No, I think my luck's run as far as it'll go, and I think I'll go home."
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really when you leave there, you come out of the field, you get on the chopper, you go to the airport. In my case, it was Tan Son Nhut down at Saigon. Mm-hmm. The next morning, you get on a plane and you're on your way home. You're back in the real world.
Okay.
There's no in between. You just you got rockets and mortars coming in one day, and you're talking to a stewardess. Then the next day going home, you know.
Was that a challenge for you, you think?
I think it was a challenge for everybody.
Yeah.
In our situation, we it's hard to explain. I think it's one of the reasons a lot of the guys suffer from PTSD today. Is the transformation of going from one extreme to the other. Mm-hmm. But it affected me in a way. When I got home, my family was glad to meet me. I met my mother and brother at the airport. We had a little get together that night with the family, and the next few days I tried to go get back into civilian life somewhat. Mm-hmm. But luckily for me, I had a duty station to go to at Fort Benning. Was my next assignment, and I actually probably had a couple months worth of leave, but I spent a week at home, and after I headed for Fort Benning, I had to get back around other soldiers. Mm-hmm. Civilian life, I wasn't quite ready for it, and it was good that I had that next duty station. I reported in early, but yeah, it's quite a transformation when you come out of combat and go back to civilian life so quickly. I'm glad they're not doing that today in a lot of cases. From what I understand, they try to give the guys a little time in between there.
Yeah. Which
I think is good.
Okay. So how were you received by your family and your community when you got home?
Well, I was received real well by my family. They were all pretty proud of me, but most of the other people it was rather hostile. I met one old neighbor, and right after I got back, met him in a bar, neighborhood bar, and he, I said, "Well, you're so and so," and he looked at me, knew right away I was probably just out of the service, and the person, and we got to talking. He had lived right next door to us, and I got to talking to him and about where I'd been, what he had been doing, and he'd said, "Well, me and my wife, we're anti-war. We just don't believe in it, you know." And he was hostile, and I just walked away from him. I didn't, you know. After that, I was real careful about how I went about introducing myself.
So what's that? Did you feel that pretty regularly? I mean, because now, if you walk around in uniform now, nobody's going to say anything like that to you. But during Vietnam,
They did. I encountered a young lady downtown right after. Also, I don't remember. It was pretty close to when I got back, because I was downtown at Reich's in Dayton, probably shopping for clothes or something. But there was this. I started across the street there on 2nd Street, and this little young lady ran up to me and grabbed my arm and stuffed some literature in my hand, and it was an anti-war thing, and it was kind of I just kind of gritted my teeth and kept walking, didn't say anything. When I got to the other side, I just pitched it in a trash can or something. And but they were all standing there. They had a little group of them on one corner. I do remember that. That was right here in Dayton, Ohio.
Yeah. Okay. So after you got out of the military, how did you readjust to civilian life then?
I got a job and let my hair grow and grew a beard and kept quiet for a number of years.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
It was just the nature of being a Vietnam vet. You were looked at like a baby killing drug user, and it was kind of a stigma that we all went through. And it wasn't actually until maybe the Gulf War that I noticed attitudes changed. And that was, of course, sometime in the 80s, that I know, mid 80s, early 90s, when the attitudes started changing. And then nowadays, it's really nice, because I've been thanked for my service several times by strangers out on the street, and it's a whole different ball game. We didn't have that, you know. And one thing I told, and I'll tell anybody this, when I became commander and joined the VFW. Well, when I first joined the VFW and then later became a commander of the post, I told everyone, I said, these guys coming out of the service are not going to be treated like we were.
It's very true, and I think that's partially.
I said that I'm going to make sure of that. You know, nobody that I know is going to be treated that way, and we're going to do everything we can to welcome you guys home.
Yeah. All right. So right after you got out of the service, you said you got a job again. Where did you work after you got out?
I got a job with a trucking company. I was a supervisor at a trucking company.
And did you do that until you retired?
No. I had several jobs. I've managed a bar, and then I kind of started my own computer business. I had a computer shop, custom built computers, Then I went to work for CACI. That's one of the larger computer companies in the world.
Okay.
They actually do a lot of work for the military. But I didn't do any work for the military. My portion of CACI, we had an office in Beaver Creek, and we had the food stamp computer throughout the state of Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And we serviced all those.
Wow. Okay. And when did you, are you retired now?
Yeah.
So how old were you when you retired?
I was 64.
54? Okay. And how old are you now?
71.
71. Okay, so about 7 years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
And what were you doing before you retired? Like, what was the last job you did?
I was a computer tech.
Okay, working on this. Okay.
CACI.
Okay. Have you remained in contact with any of your fellow veterans that maybe you went to Vietnam with or that you went to training with?
Trying to think. Not really. See, like I said, we didn't go to Vietnam with each other.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't go as a unit or anything. We flew over by ourselves, got in a unit, came back by ourselves. A whole different ball game than what it is today and what it should be. But I haven't. I did speak on. I say speak. I had email contact with one guy in my unit that I'd known briefly in my unit. He lives in Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. But I do belong to, I do have a group on Facebook called Vietnam Vets Only, and it's just Vietnam vets. We don't allow anybody else on there, and there's about probably close to 4,000 of us that speak to each other daily.
Oh, okay. That's nice. And then obviously you're part of the VFW or part of any other veteran organizations?
No, I'm not. And a lot of people, I know that a lot of people in my position join just about anything and everything veteran related. Mm. But for some reason, I like to focus all my attention on the VFW.
Okay.
And the post here.
Obviously, that's quite a job being the commander.
It can be, yeah. It's a challenge sometimes.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we'll kind of go into some reflections here. How do you think that your wartime experiences affected your life?
Oh, golly. It completely changes you from what you started out. Mm. Changes your whole perspective on everything in life. I don't think anybody can experience war or combat and not be changed. And it changed me dramatically. I grew up in a time when you believed that nothing could happen to you or your family or your friends or anybody else, and you go to a part of the world that's totally different and find out that's untrue. A lot of people can be killed. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it changes you, and it's changed me, and it's changed everybody that's been there.
Okay. What about any life lessons you learned from the military service? Well,
I learned a lot a lot of life lessons. I don't have any sage advice to give anyone except to work hard and trust your leaders. It changed me a great deal. Like I said before I went in, I was happy-go-lucky, enjoying my job and partying at night, and it made me a lot more serious, and grateful to be alive. and buckle down, and I think it made me a better person overall, but I don't know whether it was worth the the losses that you encountered, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't have any, like I said, I don't have any sage advice to give you to.
Okay, that's fine. How has your military service impacted your feelings about about war and about the military in general?
Well, I didn't know much about the military before I went in,
Mm-hmm.
and it made me appreciate the military and how advanced we were.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I fired a Pershing missile. That was at the time, that was $1 million missile, and had the capability of 40 times the destruction of Hiroshima. I was impressed. I was impressed by the leadership of the military, and it gave me a whole outlook on the military that I didn't have before I went in, that I have now, and respect.
Yeah.
We have the finest military in the world, and I think a lot of people know that, and I think a lot of people don't know that, but I come to know it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
All right. That's pretty much it for this. I just want to ask a couple questions. Have you had any experience with the Veterans Affairs, like the VA, the hospital?
I've had good experiences, and I've had bad experiences.
Okay.
Some of the care that the VA gives over there is super.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it is not quite up to the standards that it should be.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to try to improve. I hope it does. I've had, like I said, I've had a couple problems with myself in the past, and I think those have been resolved. But it's not what our veterans deserve. They deserve better, and hopefully they'll get that.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add to the interview? Anything we didn't talk about?
No, I can't think of anything.
All right. Well, thanks for doing the interview, and thank you for your service.
Well, thank you.